Thank you for downloading Season 6, Episode 13 of Baseball Pitching the Fix. I am your host, Joe Janish, and with me, as always, is baseball pitching motion expert Angel Borrelli. In this episode, we are going to be talking about, in the MLB section, Justin Verlander and Gerrit Cole. Just why are they so good? We're going to find out in this episode. And in the teaching moment, Angel's going to talk about two very common flaws in pitchers and how those flaws may have developed. And then in the Pearl segment, we'll be talking about consistency with Zach Greinke as an example. And without further ado, let's bring on Angel. How are we doing over there on the left coast?
Well, as being part of California, I'm fine. I'm not fine as a Yankees fan, but I am trying to keep it together this morning.
Yes. We are recording this in the middle of October of 2019, and the Yankees are currently down 3-1. It's not looking good, but, well, we'll see what happens. That's why they play the games, right? You never know what can happen.
Exactly. Love 4 out of 7.
Yeah, so
Love it.
We'll see what happens. So we have a little bit of special news for coaches that are going to the 2020 ABCA convention from January 2nd till January 5th in Nashville. Angel Borrelli will be at the conference. So if you are going to be attending, you should absolutely positively send a note to Angel at gymscience.com. And she would love to speak with you. And she wants to, meet all of her listeners and talk and answer questions and learn more about what you're doing. So, Angel, it's so exciting that you're going to be going to the convention. I'm really happy about that.
Yes, I am. I'll be attending it, which is great. So I'll have a chance to talk to as many people as possible. But anybody who listens to my podcast, if you're going to be there, do not hesitate to let me know, and I'll send you my cell number, and then we'll, hopefully hook up. And of course, I already have a lot of coaches that, we are wanting to kind of, get into a group. So anybody going at all, make sure that you email me to let me know. Or if you see me and you're there, come on up. I'd love to meet all of you that listen to the podcast.
Yeah, that's going to be great. So again, 2020, January 2nd to 5th in Nashville. If you're going, be sure to do that. So Angel, let's get started with our MLB segment. I actually get the same question. You said you keep getting the same question. What is it about Justin Verlander and Gerrit Cole? Why are they so gosh darn good? And it's a question that's weighing on my mind too. I mean, they're good pitchers, but they've been just crazy good this year. So why, Angel, why is this happening?
Yeah, there's a million things that go into being as great as they are, no question. That's for every pitcher. But people were specifically saying, what is it that they do? Because it looks like they're not doing much. And I said, that's exactly why they're so good. So last podcast, remember we talked about the 4 components. And one of them I said is the first thing a pitcher has to do, he has to get downhill. If he can't get downhill in a good way, he's not going to be able to rotate in a good way, and he's not going to be able to get his hand in the right place. Therefore, his ball release will be off. So everything starts at the beginning. And one of the things that Cole and Verlander do better than anybody else is an efficient, simple, no bells and whistles stride. And if you watch them, you'll see it looks like they're not going to be doing anything. In fact, when Cole goes through a stride motion and then he throws 99, you're like, what? It doesn't even look like the motion is connected to what happens with the ball. But here's the deal. The less wobble you have in your delivery, the more clean your straight line is. The moment you have a straight line in pitching is when you leave your back leg and you head to your front leg. If you distract from that straight line and start swinging and doing this and that, you're actually fighting what you're supposed to be doing, which is get down the hill and place yourself so you can turn. And if you do it correctly without asking your body to violate any of the rules, you will end up with your hand in the same place every time. That's what they do so well. Both of them have a very clean signature stride. Verlander is somebody I have talked about for years with my pitchers because they have a similarity. Verlander has this little kind of turning thing he does with his left foot just as he's lowering his knee. It's like a little curly thing he does. And Cole does not do that, but they both bring the knee down and then they stride out, and they're striding and landing in the exact same place so that they're in a perfect place so that their hips can rotate. And of course, the hips start the rotation, and the rotation will brings the hand into position. So if you rotate the same way every time, your hand's going to be in the same place every time. And if you stride the same way, then your rotation's the same. Another reason that people don't talk about, which is why we want you to have a consistent delivery or a consistent stride, is you get a chance to practice your skill. If you're all over the place with the delivery that lands here one time and here another time, you don't get a chance to become really good at the part that's important, which is the release of the ball. So, one of the things I tell them, the reason why they're so good is how simple they keep it at the beginning. It's party time when your foot lands. If you're having the party up at the top of your knee lift, like so many pitchers do, you're not going to have the correct application of power once the foot lands. There's no way that you can go speeding down the hill or turning down the hill and expect that the brain then and the body then has the capability of landing and then applying power. Won't happen. You will have allowed the power to dissipate through the way you got downhill. So everyone can watch them, and unfortunately, I think you will be getting a chance to watch them for a while. Look at the way they have the no bells and whistles stride, which is, of course, what I teach. I teach very linear, efficient mechanics because I was never a pitcher. I don't have secrets. I don't have ways that I think they could get more power. I teach it exactly the way scientifically the joints move to create a stride. And so it's the way I teach it. It's simple. And if everyone would just look and see, this is how it looks. You do not have to be powerful in a way that people think you have to be powerful, coming off your back leg to throw hard, because you can watch them and you see that that's not what they're doing. So their application of power happens once the foot lands, and it's because they have the no bells and whistles stride. And that's my take on the two of them. And they're excellent. They both are excellent pitchers. I think everybody knows that.
Yeah, they're very good. So really, it's just keeping it simple, staying
Yeah.
sideways and doing what you're supposed to do. Don't do any of the other wild stuff.
Yeah, don't get too many things going on, and don't think that that's when the party starts. Start it when the foot lands, so you know how to be. You're in one gear on the way down, and then it's all gears are out as you start to turn.
Yeah, good points, Angel. Because I know that, like you've said, a lot of pitchers and coaches, they try to think too much about how the leg is going up and how they're turning the leg when they go up and all this, but that's all just prep work. Nothing really happens until that foot lands in it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, you said you won't be able to watch Garrett Cole much. You won't be able to because you're not going to be watching the Astros if they continue to pummel your poor Yankees. But think about it this way, Angel. If the Yankees pony up some money, maybe you can watch Garrett Cole next year or the next 5 years.
Yeah.
He'll be a free agent. So you
Exactly.
never know.
Exactly. I know. I'll see if I can put my, business before my personal feelings with the World Series, but I'm not, giving up yet. By the way, just an homage to Sabathia. Wow, what a scene last night with him, injuring his shoulder and having to leave. But I will say
Yeah.
one thing, they showed the camera and they showed Garrett Cole, and I think probably the whole team, everybody stood up and applauded as he walked off the field because they knew that this was probably going to be the last time he ever pitched. And what a weird exit for a pitcher to have an awful exit, not the way we want to see them go. But I loved when I saw the Astros, who they were all just in a dogfight, and then they applaud one of the best pitchers ever. And it made me love baseball because in the end, we're just all people trying to do the best we can against each other. But the truth is that everyone knows what he's been through and what it feels like, and also, unfortunately, what it feels like to have happen. Nothing sadder than an injury to a great pitcher. So anyway, my hat's off to baseball and to the Astros for that kind of respect.
Yeah, absolutely. Sabathia is one of the warriors, the all-time warriors, and he's done it all. He's thrown hard, thrown soft, won through it all, and everybody can respect that. So
Yes.
hats off to CC. All right, well, let's move on to the teaching moment. And you are going to be talking about common flaws in pitchers and the connection of how they may have developed. So, what's this all about?
Well, so all of the show today is informed by things that I was seeing and learning when I was watching while I'm in the middle of watching this playoff series. So when I'm troubleshooting, I've been troubleshooting for a long time, more than 20 years. All I do is look at pitchers' film, and I get sent film from people who live out of state. And I noticed there's a list of common faults that I see in pitchers, and they kind of drive me crazy because they involve something that has little to do. It's not like they have a bad pitching arm, but it's the glove arm. The glove arm drives me crazy the way pitchers use it sometimes. And then also the way that they handle their front leg as they're striding out. Some of them do some pretty strange things. And so over the years, as I see it more and more, I'm always thinking, why did they do this? For example, you'll see a little kid do really weird things with his glove arm wrist. And then I figured out, oh, it's because when they were little, the glove was bigger than they were. And so that's why the glove arm wrist is usually so funky on a youth pitcher by the time he gets to 10 or 12. And it's like, because since he was 5, he's had a glove on his hand that was way too big for him, and his hand couldn't hold it correctly. So it's just that kind of connection where I go, oh, this is why I see it so frequently. So it's very important for me to understand how do movement skills that are so strange. For example, this little wrist thing I talk about where the pitcher's glove arm wrist looks like he's in a Frankenstein position. How do things like that happen? Because it actually doesn't feel good, number one. Number two, it's not efficient. And it's just strange. And you don't do it anywhere else in your life. So I'm always curious about why is it that I see commonality of certain flaws. And when I was watching the game, I was watching LeMahieu, who's just absolutely incredible first baseman. I was watching him play catch, and all of a sudden I realized something. So, one of the biggest errors that happens with the glove arm on pitchers is that they have a different timing and a different length of it than they do with their pitching arm. And most pitchers that have a flaw with their glove arm, they're pulling their glove arm in too fast. And the reason why they're pulling it in too fast is they don't even let it extend out. They kind of, as minute the ball comes out of the glove, they do this quick turn of the arm, and their gloves all of a sudden under their armpit. So let's talk about a right-handed pitcher. All of a sudden, his gloves under his left armpit. His body is still turning into position. So he's got two arms that are supposed to be sort of synchronized, and they're not. And he's got a very short glove arm, quickly turning over and tucking, while the pitching arm's long and going through its length changes to come into position. Well, when I was watching LeMahieu playing catch, this is what he's doing, throwing the ball fast glove arm. And I said, oh boy. I said, you know what? Here's all these little kids who, what do they play? They play baseball first before they become pitchers. And most of them are position players. And that's a position player glove arm. And unless somebody points out, hey, guess what? You don't do your glove arm in position playing the way you do it in pitching. That little kid is going to bring that kind of glove arm to the table. And of course, it's a fast glove arm because as a position player, the ball comes to you. You don't have time to do all these things. Your job is to get to the ball and get the ball off to the next guy. So there's different throwing mechanics. It just depends on the position you find yourself in relationship to the ball. But one thing for sure is the glove arm's not doing much. It just needs to kind of catch it and then get out of the way. And so coaches, when you're looking at your kids who seem to have timing problems, their glove arm is tucked and it's creating the rotation phase too soon, be sure that you look at it from the perspective of, is that the way he does his glove arm when he's playing second base or he's a shortstop? And I can guarantee you're going to see the similarity. And that's when you have the moment with them where you let them know that the glove arm as a position player is not the same as the glove arm of a pitcher. Now, the second thing is, so now I'm thinking hitting. Hitting is something that kids usually do before they pitch. And when they hit, they have the bat way up by their ear and they're kind of twisted, and the bat's waiting up there for the ball to come. Well, in pitching, we like the glove to stay in front of the body near the sternum. At least this is the way you want to teach it to kids because it makes sense. The glove's up at the sternum, their knee is up. They lower everything together and then everything goes out together like a jumping jack. But what you see kids doing is these crazy things where they take the glove, a righty will take it way back by his right ear. And if you look at it from the perspective of it looks like he's holding a bat, that's when you're going to see, wow, here's a kid who learned how to hit first. And so he thinks that before you begin a powerful move forward, you have to be way up high, just the way you are when you're getting ready to swing. You have that bat up high, you have your arms out. In fact, they were showing, oh, I can't remember which hitter it was, but they actually showed him actually getting in that position. I think he was going to be up next, and they were just showing some of the things he did, and they were talking about, look at that beautiful position he's in, where he's in. He's just feeling that position there so that then he can, and then they started to talk about his swing. And I thought, wow, that looks like the error that I see kids making when they don't want to put the glove in front and they want to get it behind them, which of course starts causing them to turn away from the plate. And then what do you have next? You have a crazy stride going on. So I started to look at this and I thought, yeah. And you know what else happens? The front leg of kids, they tend to keep it real closed way too long, and they keep their weight in their back leg way too long. So then you start getting this diagonal look. So he's wound up like he's swinging a bat. His front leg looks like he's getting ready to stride in the way you move to hit a ball. But in pitching, you're going to go to your front leg and rotate over the front leg. You don't do that in hitting. So what we've got are young kids who have learned the mechanics of hitting first and, of course, loved it. Loved the feeling of power, making a ball move. And then you put a glove on them and you say, okay, now you're going to throw this ball hard to the hitter. Of course, they're going to have those same mechanics. That is why I think we have kids that morph into some of these mechanical flaws. Now, if I saw these problems in pitchers just once or twice, I wouldn't be talking about it. But it is the three most common flaws, particularly in youth pitchers. And I've had pitchers that were very excellent pitchers that were having some trouble with their stride. And then I said, you know what? And I asked him, I said, were you any good at hitting? And they go, yeah, really good. And I said, show me how you get ready to when you're waiting for the ball to come at you. And sure enough, there they are, weight on the back leg, front leg in a certain position. It looks like it's getting ready to pump before it strides. I notice how they keep their hip. And while that's perfect for hitting, it couldn't be the worst thing for pitching. So there is a blend of the skills that kids learn early that can stay with them unless they are taught that they're two different things. So these three flaws are so common. The glove position, the quick front glove, not going through normal positioning for a pitcher, and also a front leg and leaning back with the weight that almost emulates more like preparation for hitting a ball and staying behind it rather than striding down the hill to get the hand behind it, but you're forward. And those are three things, connections I made. And when you watch the guys that are good, and then you watch the little kids, you can see how the skills that came with hitting morph into things that leak into the unusual skill of pitching, which is to any kid counterintuitive to not throw the ball right away, take the ball away from the target, go down the hill and control. It's actually opposite of everything they were trying to do to be a good hitter. So for all you coaches out there, when you're looking at your kids, look at them the next time they're pitching and look and see, does he look like he's actually getting ready to swing a bat as opposed to actually throwing with a really good pitching motion and delivery.
Wow. Those are some really good connections, Angel. I have some thoughts. We talk a lot about the glove arm here and the arms being mirrored more or less through the pitching motion. The one thing that is an easy correction for the pitcher, at least to get it through to them, is the glove should be up, if for no other reason, to help hide the ball, right? Because as soon as that glove comes down and the ball's up behind you, you're showing the batter the ball. So just, besides the fact that it's a good thing to do mechanically, pitchers always love to have a little edge. So you tell them, just keep that glove up a little longer, and you'll hide it from the batter a little longer. That may help sink in their head to make sure that they do that. It's interesting that you mentioned DJ LeMahieu, and you've seen him as a first baseman primarily with the Yankees. I don't know if you know this, but he's come up as a second baseman. He really played more second base than anything else, which is crazy when you look at, he's 6'4", this, giant guy, and he played second base. And I think that because of his height, he did have to work on getting rid of the ball a lot faster because he has this big, long body and long arms. And that's probably part of why he throws the way he throws too, is because as a second baseman, you have to get rid of the ball fast for the double play. So that's an interesting thing. I never would have put that together. How the position players throw the ball at their position and then take those habits to the mound. And that,
Absolutely, because and here's the thing that's interesting, and if you watch the game and watch the way LeMahieu, because he's so big, it's easy to see, and the way he's facing the guy and just throws the ball to him. I'm talking about when they're just throwing in between plays. You'll notice a very distinctive glove arm, and you will go, "Oh boy, I've seen that at least 100 times with practice the other night with all the youth guys." The thing is, when you're on the field and you're in a position, that is a speed skill. People say to me, how do you teach my infielder to throw well? Can you work with them? I say, you work with them on getting to the ball quickly. And once he's at the ball, then he has to be taught how to handle all different directions of throwing. There is no one style. I would never try to limit the speed or the style. I mean, position playing is really a speed skill. It's how well can you get to the ball and manage your body weight, getting to it and then getting it off to whatever direction you have to go to. That's the first skill a position player has to have. But it's a speed skill. Whenever you have something you've learned and you've learned it, you had to learn to do it at the appropriate speed. So here's this fast glove arm, get to the ball, scoop it up in your glove, throw it sidearm, get it across the field. All of that becomes a motor pattern that's extremely powerful. Now, when you take the player who's especially a kid and he's not even in his brain thinking about this, and you try to take him and have him do something that in his brain is the same. Now you're going to throw the ball, but you're wanting him to have a completely different style unless he really gets that one is one thing and one is another. The quick thing is going to take over. For example, when a catcher becomes a pitcher,
right.
When you have the two together, you don't see a catcher throwing like a pitcher, but you'll see a pitcher throwing like a catcher.
Yeah.
Because of this, the short arm. Once you have quickness, shortness, explosiveness one way, it's very hard to break that. That is why a conversation and education about the difference is the place to start, so that everyone really gets that pitching is a precision skill and completely different. Just because you're on the same team and you're all throwing a ball doesn't mean that the goal and the way you do it is the same. So yes, it's very interesting to me and kind of cool in the sense that when I see the same error, I always want to know, why are all the guys doing this? Because there's a reason. And if I can tap into that as a teaching moment for the pitcher, and when they get it, then they're able to say, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to have that quick glove arm anymore. I don't want to have that weird front leg that still turns sideways when I land. I want to open that leg up. You don't do that in hitting. So once they get that cognitive connection, and for the kids, you coaches have to make the connection, and then you have to know what you're going to teach. And always say, hey, we do the glove arm this way when we're pitching, but on the field, you do it fast. So now let's work on the two different styles. Any way that you can position it so they see one is black, one is white. They can make that separation, and then their brain will develop a second folder for the movement. You can't just go into one folder when you play more than one position on a team.
Right.
So anyway, that's my takeaway.
Yeah, I never really thought about it before, but like you said, every position on the baseball field and hitting, it's all about speed and reaction. Whereas The pitcher is the one place where you're not reacting at all. You're in control of your body the entire time. I mean, even hitting, there's some precision in hitting, obviously, to hit the ball, but
Right.
it's really, you have to get to the ball as fast as you can. The pitcher can take all the time he wants before he lets go of the ball. So, an interesting point.
Yes, they're completely different skills, and the mindset's gotta be completely different, and the more you coaches can help your players at young ages separate it, then it becomes simple. But when you have something that you see is wrong and you can't fix it, you wanna say, "Why won't he change that?" Well, he hasn't made the connection. It works for him as a position player, and the glove arm, the incorrect speed of a glove arm moving faster than the entire motion controls the entire motion, and a glove arm error is one of the most, I would say I see it 98% of the time when somebody comes to me and says, "Something's wrong with my delivery." Almost 90% of the time, it's a timing problem, and 98% of that 90%, it's a timing problem of the glove arm being too fast, and these are guys that can be 18, 20, 24 that are having this, so it gets embedded, but you know what? It's the beauty of the body. It embeds things. It's why you don't have to think every time you take a step. So for sports skill, if you understand these things, it gives you a whole nother tool with which to work with making changes and adjustments for the kids.
Yeah. Something else I thought about, I was a pretty good hitter when I played. I cannot play golf for the life of me. And I think part of it is that I just can't separate the two different movements, the swinging of the club and the swinging of the bat. I think it's very similar with a position player moving to the mound. I mean, it's hard to just change everything when it's such a similar type of body movement.
Exactly. Yes, the closer they are, the more they will become one, and that's why things have to be separate. So, anyway, I was, excited to make that connection.
That's pretty neat. All right. Well, let's open up that box and smell those pearls. And our pearl today, you saw something with Zach Greinke recently, and you're going to talk about him and consistency.
I did. So, here this guy is with this, and I'm pretty sure it was Granke. My brain was thinking it was Cole, and then when I went through my notes, I saw that I made the notes for Granke. So, I'm gonna say this. So, one of their pitchers, and I'm pretty sure it was Granke, he has a particular style with which he pitches and a particular timing. And again, of course, a great pitcher. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, he changes the way he delivers the ball. His complete motion looked like he just stepped out and threw, like he's going from the certain position, arms out, throw, a certain timing that you could even identify. And then all of a sudden he changes his delivery. Now I noticed it because I happened at that moment be wanting to watch something and I kind of said, "What?" And then the announcer, and I think it was Smoltz, who's just an unbelievable guy to listen to. I think he said, "Wow, well, that didn't work for him." And I said, "Oh, he saw it and actually gave up a hit." And I think it might have been a home run. So anyway, about 4, 5, 6 pitches later, maybe the next inning, I'm not sure. He tries it again. I think it might have been the same inning, but it was X number of pitches later. He tried it again, and again he gave up a hit. It did not work for him. And the announcers were saying, "What is he doing?" And I didn't see it again. He pitched the next time he pitched, which I think was last night. He did not, nothing happened. He was sticking with his own delivery. And I thought it was very interesting to me that he would change his delivery. And I thought it was more interesting that it didn't work the first time and he tried it a second time. But I think what's interesting about this is at his level, you would think he would know not to change his delivery, particularly something that has to do with timing. But secondly, the ways that a pitcher's brain might work on the mound when they are definitely trying to grab back some sort of, how can I say, control over the hitter. And so I thought about this thing. And then later on in the show, Smoltz was talking and he said something, and I loved when he said this. He said, at this level, the pitchers that actually end up having the most success are the ones that have good mechanics and less looseness. And I know he meant less looseness as wobble in the mechanics, less craziness, less stuff that can go this way or that way. See, if you do something kind of crazy, like if you decide you're going to do somersaults down your stairway and survive, let's say you can do it. It's so crazy of a thing to do that if you filmed yourself doing it, you'd be doing it differently every time because it's crazy. If I say walk a straight line, you're going to probably do it the same way every time you do it. So whenever you have wobble and you're fighting against your body, which is what a poor mechanics are. Poor mechanics are really you trying to do something other than what the body's designed to do in that moment with that shape and with the intent of your target. And if you follow the rules, it's pretty much going to look the same all the time. But if you have too much wobble, I call it, he calls it looseness, you're going to have a delivery that's inconsistent. And I thought it was great because here we've got a great pitcher who decided to play around with something and it didn't work for him at all. In fact, he didn't just do it. It ended up costing him. But I thought it was great that in the end, there wasn't one bit of conversation about spin rate. There wasn't one bit of conversation about some of the things that seem so important to everyone right now that seem to have bumped up at the top of the list, pushing down the muscular and performance components of the pitching motion. And then here we have one of the best pitchers ever announcing, and in the end, he talks about this. And I thought it was so awesome, particularly because of what we'd seen. So I think that, and I always believe this, that no matter how far out we get in this search for, we've got to throw harder, we've got to have more spin rate. In fact, now it's not even velocity, it's spin rate. And we've got to have things look a certain way. We've got to do this, we've got to do that. In the end, I believe it's all going to come back to, and let's say all those things you're searching for are important. Guess what? They have a greater potential for happening if your delivery is more sound, and a sound delivery is one that makes a delivery conform to the way your body moves and the way a body moves, and you use those joint movements to produce the exact direction you need and to produce the speed you need with the joint that's producing it. So no matter how far out we get with everything that seems crazy right now, it's going to come back to a consistent delivery that you can repeat, and it's repeatable if it's correct. And correct means that you're asking a hip or a knee or a shoulder to do what it's designed to do and not do it in an unusual way. And so that was my takeaway from his conversation and with what I saw. I thought it was just, it was an amazing comment. And it brings us back to the basics.
Yep. That's what we keep trying to talk about every episode is, pitching is precision. It's more ballet than ultimate fighting. It's something that every pitcher and coach should keep thinking about is how can we fine tune that motion so that it's, more natural and using the body properly as opposed to, all the other crazy things that people seem to be trying to do. Well, good stuff, Angel. We're winding down our season 6. We'll have another episode in about 2 weeks. If you haven't already, you should subscribe to the show. Definitely tell another coach, friend, pitcher, parent about the show if you enjoy this. Be sure if you're going to the ABCA convention that you send a note to Angel at gymscience.com. And also if you have any comments, questions, topic ideas for a future episode, please send a note to Angel. Be sure to go to her website, which is gymscience.com, and that's gym as in GYM, SCIENCE.com. We're going to be back in about 2 weeks. Until then, we wish you safe and effective performance on the pitching mound.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening.